Right, so this is something new that I'm testing out.
Okay.
I'm actually so it's gonna be going on YouTube. Started already on YouTube with some couple videos and things, so just building on that, trying to go from strength to strength. And I thought you would be an amazing person to have a conversation with.
Oh, thanks,
You'll
bro.
be the first one, to be fair. And what I'm actually going to try and call this series is People's Perspective. And we've just had obviously a long conversation, funnily enough, already.
Damn, we damn near could have been recording all
recorded,
that.
but to be fair, I actually like that not everything is recorded.
Yeah.
But so now pretty much I'll first actually let you introduce yourself, and then just go on to sort of what I'm thinking for this section.
Okay. What's going on, everybody? My name. We got some bloopers and all that already.
Don't worry, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. It's the first one.
I think we're locked in. I think we got a little. Okay, cool.
Yeah, cool.
All right. What's going on, everybody? My name is Nicholas Haystings. I'm from California. Sitting down with my man Scotty P. Got to have a conversation for the first. What are you calling this? What's the name of it?
People's Perspectives.
For People's Perspective. Pleasure to be here with y'all. Pleasure to be here with you, man.
Brilliant. So just to give a disclaimer, the camera might fall another 10 times. I don't know. Whatever. Probably not going to edit out either. So just bear with me. However, one of the reasons that we're even here, we're in Bali just now. Just to give a little bit of background, we're in Bali at the moment. I met him through Soma Fight Club. We've both been training there. That's where we met. Just got talking. And just his perspective on things was actually very interesting and actually helped me in even just current situations that I was facing within my business, just within life, and just understanding things more. So I'm thankful for that. I just thought, let's just have a conversation, and it doesn't need to really be specific. I didn't really take notes. I just thought, let's have a conversation, see where it goes, and just get people's perspectives. Because one thing that I've realised slowly but surely is how important perspective is from people, and from just taking on a lot of perspectives, listening to them, understanding them, and being able to sort of discern and see where you can apply different people's ideologies, ideas, theologies, experiences to your own life, because they'll have maybe experienced things that you'll never experience in your life, and learn lessons from that the only way you can learn is through them. So not to waffle too much, but so pretty much like I said, he's introduced himself. My first question, I guess, is going to just be business related, purely because from just our small conversations, you're somewhat of a mogul, so to speak. You're a business and entrepreneur.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Quite humble entrepreneur, and so just go on and just tell me about maybe what got you into business, what sort of businesses it is that you run, and the motivation maybe even behind it.
Yeah, I got you. Well, two things, right back at you. I'm glad we met, bro, because it's like I got to learn so much from like your perspective too, and the advice that you were giving me when we were sitting in the sauna and all that. That was good fucking I'm sorry, cuss words, no cuss words?
Do what you want.
Good fucking conversation, bro. Like, much appreciated. But the story, I guess, of how I got into entrepreneurship, I think it's similar to, the whole quote, necessity is the mother of invention. So it was just kind of like, okay, I had a need, I didn't grow up with like hella money and all that other stuff. I didn't grow up having like all of the things that I wanted, even though some of it might have been like excessive. Like, I was a kid, so I wanted like candy and cards and shit like that. So it's like, okay, well, I know that I have this need, and I know that this is also a need that my peers have. So let me see if I can go ahead and start a little business selling candy and all that, become the candy man. Yeah, bro. So like, I would go, and I would like, save up my little $20, and I'd buy like the big bulk box of candy. And then I would sell them for like an upcharge kind of thing.
Right.
Make a little bit of money, so that way I could get a little bit of candy, and I could also get a little bit of money, So fast forward a few years later, and that mentality was still kind of going. So when I was in university, I didn't have like, I don't think there was any time outside of brief periods where I had any less than like 3 jobs at a time.
3 jobs?
Bro, 3 jobs at a time, studying engineering, struggling, trying to like make it through. And it was like me and my best friend at the time, and still my co-founder and best friend now, we said, this all this struggling, all this ain't it. Like, We're trying to figure out a way through college. We're trying to figure out our way through schooling. You know, we're trying to just like live a life at the same time and not be broke while doing it. So it's like, all right, well, what can we do? So we got a little bit of financial aid and it was like, you know what, let's go ahead and start. Yes, sir. Makasih. So we started we figured like, okay, we got a little bit of financial aid, we got a little bit of money to play with. So what do we do with this now? Fast forward, we ended up starting a car dealership.
Oh, okay.
Bro, we were barely old enough to drink at that time. I was like 21 freshly, and he was like 20.
Right.
So we seen that there was like a way to make money off it, and from there, bro, like I remember the first flip we made was we bought a Buick. Like it was like a 2000 and something Buick or whatever. Right. Looked like a shit car. Nobody wanted to touch it, bro. Nobody at the auction wanted to touch it. But we grew up a little bit differently. You know, while they're paying attention to like the BMWs and the nice Hondas and all that, we're looking at like the bottom level shit. Because it's like, I know some people that'll buy this Buick.
Yeah.
Point being, we buy this Buick for $500. We ended up putting a new engine in it for like another $500. And then we sold it the next week for like about $2-3 grand. So we made like about a band or two in a week just because like we had a different perspective than the other people that were kind of like there. So that kind of like really just helped the business, you know, mind from there. It was like, okay, we think differently because we come from a different place. So we're gonna see things different, we're gonna do business different. And that was kind of like the start of the entrepreneurship bug. But then honestly, from there, and let me know if I'm going on far too much, bro. So the other part of the entrepreneurship bug that got me was on accident. It wasn't even on purpose. So I always wanted to be an engineer since I was a kid, like studying design, trying to sketch my little inventions I wanted to make. You know, I was a nerdy kid, so like I'm watching my anime shit and it's like, okay, I want to bring these things to real life. So I'm sketching things, drawing things, whatever. Fast forward later, I get my engineering degree. I'm in industry and all that, and I look around and I'm like, why are there no black people? There's no brown people. There's no women. Like, what's going on here? What's the problem? And it really wasn't any lack of genius that was the problem. It was more so a lack of opportunity.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I see that there's a hole in the market, and I know that I'm successful. But is it really success if I'm the only one that's successful and all the people around me and that look like me are still struggling? So from there, we started what we call Square Root Academy. So that was our nonprofit. I think I was 25 going into being 26 when we started that. And it's a nonprofit really dedicated to getting minorities and people that are not traditionally represented in STEM. It was really to get them exposed at an early age so they, for one, had the knowledge to know that this is a pathway for them, and then two, so we can equip them if this is a route that they want to go. So we did that. We started off, you know, we weren't making any money in the beginning, any money. But then, you know, we got our first little like $50,000 grant. And it was like, oh, there's money, we can do this.
So where did that grant come from?
The city, so the government.
So,
yeah, so we got a little bit of government funding to do this. And we started seeing it as like a real life possibility. But, you know, at the time, you know, like I said, bro, we're in our mid-20s, so, you know, we got this little 50 grand, we think we're doing something, but come to find out later, that ain't shit.
50 grand ain't none?
No, bro. No, not when you have to buy the tech, you have to rent the office, you have to pay your staff.
Yeah, grants are different, obviously. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So it was like, okay, this is cool, but when we first started, you know, I went from my engineering salary to making like $20,000 a year. And I was like, oh, this ain't shit. Like, this is a fraction of what I was making.
Yeah.
But, you know, just back into like our conversation around like authenticity, you know, being in this entrepreneurship space, that was the most authentic to me.
Really?
I got to be myself, I got to be free, and I got to really just kind of like work towards my passions, you know.
And your passion is, of course, getting people of minorities into those positions that they usually wouldn't have access to. Right.
It was the passion was how can I use what I have to help other people? That was the goal. Because like people, I think a lot of times in entrepreneurship, people glorify like, oh, I'm self-made and I'm not self-made. Bro, there's many shoulders that I've stood on. There's many people that laid the foundation for me to be able to do what it is that I'm doing. You know, even if it was from like the teacher that was saying, oh yeah, go forward, go do this. Those are shoulders that I stood on.
That's actually.
Even if it's like, you know, like we said, you know, the parents that may have not have had everything, but they made sure you had a way to school. They made sure that we had food on our plates. I couldn't have just done this without them, you know? So, you know, it was really just, okay, I know that somebody paid it forward and made a way for me. Now it's my turn.
And do you think it's easier to, I guess, pay it forward, as you said, or make a way for someone when you're doing something that you enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, shit, you know this, bro. Like, the road of entrepreneurship, it ain't all sunshine and rainbows. You know, sometimes it is bullshit. Sometimes it is straight bullshit. So it's fulfilling and all that, but I don't ever confuse it to think that what I'm doing still isn't work. It's still very much so work. You know, a lot of people, it's like, oh yeah, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Bullshit. Bullshit. Because it's still work. Like, I don't care. Like, let's say Tyson, Ali, they might have loved the game of fighting, but they're still working out. Yep. Work is still a necessary part of the lifestyle, of the choice, of the journey. You know? It's still the problems that you pick, because that's life in general, bro. Like, it's not just to have a life free of problems. It's about having a life where you get to pick your problems, you know?
And you get to also pick what problems you don't have in your life.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's perfect. Mm-hmm. I like that. That's a very nice one. And now we're talking. You obviously got the 50k grant, realizing that it wasn't a lot, realizing that it wasn't. Let's just say it wasn't enough. It wasn't adequate. Where did you go from there? What was your sort of idea from going from flipping a car to realizing you can get grants to then maybe upscaling from those grants to what was the next step, so to speak, and what was the next step, and what did you have to maybe not sacrifice, but what did you have to let go of, or what had to change to be able to get to that next step?
There was a lot that had to change. I consider myself a recovering workaholic. You know, bro, I'm talking a straight machine, like, because there was some overlap between the time that I was in engineering and when I was starting Square Root Academy. So I was working engineering from about 8 a.m. to about 5 p.m. every day, and then I would get off work and then I'd work on the company from about 6 p.m. to about 10 p.m. every day. And then I would work the entrepreneurship job every weekend writing curriculum. And then I would review for the next week that following Sunday, and then just do it all over again. Long story short, bro, is I was doing that for so long, and not really kind of like knowing anything about mental health and all that. And I remember I had my first kind of like, and I'm still not even sure what it is, but my first kind of like panic attack, low-key, you know? So I remember getting off, you know, the light rail, our little train situation and all that. And I get off the light rail, and I'm walking to the next job, and then it's just like I could not breathe. No, I could not breathe. Like, I had to like sit down on the side of the road just to kind of like catch my breath, and just realizing like, oh fuck, I'm this overwhelmed. Like, this can't go on. So it was me, and then the 3 members of my team, like my 3 generals basically. Like, we were all kind of stressed, we were all kind of strained, and it was like, okay, I need to have the foresight, because I can't go on this way, and I can't ask my team to go on this way. You know what I'm saying? A part of like being the leader is also like making sure, not that you're just going hard, but that you also have the pacing so your team can keep up with the mission. So we found this practice called Vipassana. It's Vipassana? Vipassana. It's I think we might have talked about it a little bit, the meditation thing.
Go over it again.
If we haven't, like, so what it is, it's this 10-day, bro, it would be, your team might like this shit too. So it's a 10-day meditation retreat They do them all over the world. You go in for 10 days, you isolate. There's no reading, no writing, no technology, no eye contact. And you meditate for like almost 8 hours a day. So after that, it was really just kind of like being able to sit down and to slow down long enough to where it's like, okay, I finally know what my mind sounds like when it's quiet.
Yeah.
I finally know what it means to be in control of my thoughts, in control of my mind, in control of like where and what I give my attention to. Because before it was just like I couldn't stop. It was just like, oh no, I need to work on this. This is the next play. This is the next thing that needs to be done. This is this, this is this, this is this. And it was killing me and my team to do so. But I guess to go back to your question, what I kind of had to change was understanding that I've been a leader in leadership capacities before, but now it's like I'm the leader of something that matters more to not just me, but it matters to my community. It's something that also affects my team. And these people are counting and entrusting me to lead them the right way and in a healthy way. So I had to kind of like grow up, so to speak, a little bit. So, you know, I carried that mentality with me beyond Square Root Academy, into the daycare that I co-founded, into the co-working space I co-founded, into the other nonprofits that I co-founded, into the real estate investments that I have. It really just taught me the importance of pacing, you know?
Pacing?
Pacing, bro.
Oh, pacing, right.
Pacing, because it's kind of like, I don't know, this isn't even ego, this is just logic. I believe that anybody can do anything they put their mind to. Anything. Any and everything. But you cannot do any and everything all at once.
Definitely not.
You know? So you kind of have to learn how to kind of like not only pace yourself, but pace the team that's coming with you.
Yeah.
Because if you go too fast, you'll burn out your team, you'll break your team.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times as well, like what you're saying in terms of burning out your team is the most important, but also, again, like you said, it's not even really an ego thing. I think if you're not, in fact, maybe it isn't. Maybe if your ego's that big that you think that you can't be burnt out, you'll be burnt out and you won't even really realise you're burnt out, and then you won't realise that your burnout is causing problems that it shouldn't be causing, because now you're trying to do things while being burnt out, and the burnout is caused by yourself just because of lack of, like you said, pacing yourself, and thinking that you need to just go all out, all at once, all of the time. It's like, you don't really have to, and you shouldn't either.
Nope.
It's good to start off maybe at a fast pace, and then once you've started off at that fast pace and got things up and running, you definitely need to pace yourself to a point where you're like, okay, you're moving at a pace where you can actually look around and see, okay, what's needing maybe solved, what's not needing solved, what things can we improve on. But if you're just constantly going at a fast pace, you never get a chance to actually look at what you've sort of built. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you don't look at what you've built and you just keep building on it, you end up taking a step back and realising, damn, there's so much wrong with it, which you don't get to see if you're going at a fast pace. So yeah, I think you're right in terms of pacing yourself. And the same goes for even, because what I like to do is I like to always, I would just say extrapolate, because I don't know what the other word for it would be, but if you minimise something down, maybe, I'd need to Google the word, but anyway, if you take that and you apply that elsewhere, like in the easiest, simplest way is the gym. Yes, okay, when you're first starting the gym, you've got maybe a bit of motivation, you can go a little bit harder on things, but just because you feel like you can and go harder doesn't mean that you should, because if you don't pace yourself now and you're going to the gym 3 days in a row, you're not really someone that goes to the gym, you go 3 days in a row and you go flat out, you can't keep that up.
Nope.
And I think it's way more imperative to do something that you can keep up rather than doing something you can't keep up. And yeah, okay, maybe there'll be days where you feel like you can do a lot more, and it's like, okay, yeah, maybe do more, but don't do that much more that you can't do your normal.
Yep.
So if you normally go and you run 15 minutes and you get motivation to run another 15 minutes, but you know if you run that 15 minutes, you're not going to run 15 minutes the next day. Cut that 15 minutes short and just do 15 minutes.
And that's okay.
Knowing that you can do 15 minutes the next day, and then, okay, maybe you can do 20 minutes, but you still need to do that 15-minute minimum the next day. Because I think what happens a a lot is, and I fell victim to it, and I probably still fall victim to it, is you do something very well at the beginning, or you do something just trying to almost rush it, and then it gets to a point where maybe you can't even rush anymore, and you need to slow down, but because you were always rushing, you never had like a base level of this is what you should be doing on a day-to-day. And I think again, pacing, with that comes in actually planning out what you're doing. Like, because then you can actually set a pace the same way, and you can put this into even boxing, like we were saying before. Same way when you go into a boxing ring and you just run at someone and you start throwing punches, like you're just burning yourself out before anything's even started. Whereas another person, it might look as if, oh, this person's this person's just ran at me, they're expending all this energy, and you're just staying consistent with what you're doing. You're maybe just throwing one punch every now and again, but if you keep that consistent the full way through, you're going to come out on top, because they're not going to be able to keep up going full force 100% of the time the full way through. I think it's more about consistency, and yes, you're going to have those moments where you've now got them on the back foot and you can maybe exert a little bit more energy, but always keeping in mind, okay, I will exert just enough energy to make sure that I can stay consistently doing what I was doing before without burning myself out. And I think that's maybe just examples for pacing. And then, like you said, that was what you sort of learned and had to understand to go from getting those 50k grands to moving up and onwards from there was pacing. So tell me a little bit more about like that.
But it's pacing, but it's that sustainability piece, bro. It's the sustainability piece. Like, can you keep it going? You know, I think that's where sometimes people, and I've been guilty of this, and I might be guilty of it somewhere in my life I just haven't seen yet. But it's kind of like with the whole goal setting thing. We're at the top of the new year, so I think it's appropriate. You know, a lot of people, it's like, oh yeah, New Year's resolution. I'm gonna go to the gym every single day. No, you're not. No, you're not.
And that's again lying to yourself.
You're gonna burn out. Like there's gonna be a day where you just might not be feeling it, or you might just be overexerting yourself to the point to where your body just can't keep up. So it's kind of like even the best of us, the best of them, the best of whoever, whatever. Like they understand that there's need for rest days. People are like, oh yeah, I want to look like I want a body that looks like John Jones or something like that. I can almost promise you John Jones takes days off. You know, I can almost promise you that he rests and all that stuff. But it's important to make sure that just kind of like pacing is a part of the schedule, especially when you're not looking out for like just you know? And it's kind of like, I believe that any mission or anything that you're doing, if it can be done with one person, then your dream or your mission is too small. So if it can be done with one person, then you need to be thinking bigger, or you can do more. Humans are communal animals. We need other people. We rely on other people. We exist through other people. We become people through other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, and if that's the case, and if we're operating within this pack, we not only need to know our own limits, but we also need to know the limits of other people as they are now. You know? And that's a part of like understanding pacing. Like, it's so many things, like even with business, working out, the gym, arts, or whatever, there's so many things that are so fundamentally the same. It's kind of like even when we first met, we were first talking, bro, we live literally on the other side of the planet from each other. You get me? But there's so many lessons that you have, that I have for each other that are relatable. Because the fundamentals and the foundation, that doesn't change. That's just the universal law of human nature. The laws of nature in general. Some things just are.
Don't change, they just are,
You know, like it's kind of like, I don't care what industry you're in, where you're at, there's no substitute for discipline.
Yeah, you're right.
You know,
there isn't. Like that's the way of the law. Like you said, even the universe, like the sun's got the discipline to get up and go down at the pretty much in the same pattern, in the same system every day. Doesn't change. It just consistently does what it does consistently.
It just is.
That's how it's able to maintain everything. If there was a day where it just didn't, I guess, I don't know, how can I put this in a way? If there's a day where it maybe did more somehow, it would probably not be good for the planet.
Yep.
And if it did less, it would also probably not be good for the planet. It just does what it does, and it does it consistently all the time. It doesn't look to do more, it doesn't look to do less, it just has a plan of this is what I do, and it does that. Maybe the sun wasn't the best example, but I'm sure you sort of understand what I mean. Like,
Tracking.
rather than trying to think that you're somehow like, okay, maybe we've got our differences, but trying to think that you're above the laws of nature and just being disciplined. I think that's where a lot of detriment sort of comes in, like down to even just like you were saying, pacing things and planning things. If you don't plan things and you don't pace things, it's like, where are you actually heading?
Yeah.
You don't even have an idea of where you're headed, you don't even have an idea of what it's going to take to get to where you're headed. You're just hell-bent that you somehow get there, even if you're going in the wrong direction. You're going that hard that you don't even realise that you're going in the wrong direction. And again, the same can be applied in the gym. You're going in the wrong direction that much, you injure yourself, or you just put the foot down on the gas and you're just driving, end up on the wrong motorway, or highway, or whatever, and you just keep on driving. And you're like, nah, but it's fine because I'm driving. No. I'm driving. We don't need to pace ourselves. We just need to get there. I'm just driving. You just drive yourself right to the completely wrong place.
Bro.
Whereas if you obviously pace yourself, you can actually take a second to read some damn road signs and realise, right, this is maybe where I want to go next, or that's maybe where I want to go next. So I think what you've just said at the beginning is beautiful in terms of the pacing, and then in terms of the discipline, which is, again, that's phenomenal. And like you said, it's not as if you're perfect. It's not as though you are constantly disciplined, but I'm sure you can agree that that's what got you to where you are today, and that's what's going to get you to also the next level.
Thank you, bro.
Which is, again, in terms of where you are just now, what would you say are points, like what acts of discipline got you to that point, and what acts of discipline are going to get you to the point that you're looking to get to next? Because obviously you're now in a position where you are providing pretty much the community with what you set out to provide them with, which was opportunities and jobs, etc. in certain fields. So you're now doing that. What's next, I guess, and how do you get there using the same philosophy of that discipline and pacing?
That's a good question. I think that I think it's something that we touched on a little bit a second ago, is the fundamentals don't change. You know, make sure that you're still keeping some of the same things that got you there. Like, I maintain my meditations, I maintain my practices, I maintain kind of like keeping my circle of people around to where I can ask them like, hey, where am I maybe falling short, where I can be better? And it's kind of like jumping back to the meditation thing, is we call it a practice. You know, there are no masters here because we're always practicing to get better. You know, it's making sure that you never get so arrogant to where it's like, oh, there's nothing else that I have to learn. You can still learn from anybody. You can still learn from anywhere. You just have to be open enough to actually take in the lesson, you know? So it's maintaining that, and then it's keeping the mission first. The mission hasn't changed. It's evolved a bit, but it hasn't changed.
In what way has it evolved?
It's evolved because, you know, particularly like with mine, starting off in like the whole nonprofit sector and all that, my thing was like, okay, wow, there's not a lot of, you know, black people, brown people, women, minorities or whatever in this industry, specifically within engineering. And then like, as I kind of got out there a little bit more, it's like, oh shit, this isn't just in engineering. This is something that also affects the arts. This is also something that affects the economy as well. This is something that just affects, you know, our position and ability to get in government positions. This really affects our ability as a whole to elevate as a populace. So it's like, okay, well, fuck. It's all this inequity everywhere. I can't stay focused on just this thing now that I see more. I cannot be the same, and I cannot think the same because I am no longer the same based on what I know now.
Yeah, and that took a shift in perspective just based off of what you've seen. Right, so, because it goes into what you were just saying as well in terms of pacing yourself. So now you've seen damn, this goes deeper than I thought. My idea of something was here. It's now expanded to this point. How do you approach this? Do you now try and, how do you approach that? Like your newfound perspective, how do you approach?
Well, I've since Square Root, which I started, I want to say like almost, it'll be 9 years in a few months. It'll be 9 years in a few months. Within that time frame, like I've tried to tackle other things. Like we've done something called Scholars Playground, to where we took a whole bunch of different kind of like organizations and we taught kids about literacy. We taught them about art. We taught them all about history, all for free. So we did that, and then we did the ones where it's like, okay, I see they're beautifying, the rich parts of my city, but what are they doing for the neighborhoods that I grew up in? So I started something called Uncommon House, to where we were doing like beautifying basketball courts and painting murals on them, painting murals in the neighborhoods and all that I grew up in. So it's like, okay, I tackled it with the arts, I tackled it with education, but really what I found, and this is just me speaking as the me right now, it might evolve one day, I don't know, but what I started to look at is like, okay, damn, there's no access to STEM here. Damn, there's no access to arts here. Damn, there's no access to mentorship here. There's no access to entrepreneurship classes here. It's like, okay, cool, but what's at the core of all of that? And it's all economic. So my new mission now is like, okay, how do I make sure that these areas are economically sustainable? Because in 2025, bro, there's no reason for an under-resourced community to exist. With all this money that's passing through, there's no reason why every community shouldn't have the resources that it needs in order for people to be whatever the fuck they want to be. So it's like, okay, with all this different experience, how do I put something together to where we can impact this in a way that's beneficial to the whole? Regardless for if it's the kid that wants to be an engineer, if it's the parent that has been overworked that doesn't need to work anymore, if it's the grandparent that's been taking care of these people and that people that have sacrificed their dreams. How do we impact all of that? So I see it happening in other communities, particularly in America, because that's the only place I can speak on, is like I'll see the Latin population, they'll take care of each other. I'll see like the Hmongs, the Asians, the Indians, I see how they take care of each other. Black folks do not do that same thing in my home.
You don't think so?
I know so. We don't.
So you think that that's exclusive to where you grew up, or would you say that's everywhere?
Oh, I can't speak to everywhere. I can only speak to America. America, and particularly like neighborhoods like mine. And those neighborhoods, you take a South Sac and then South Sac, South San Francisco, East Atlanta, these places, there's geographically they're very far apart, but they're very similar with the absence of resources, and that's because of something, and I would have to go hella in depth, but have you heard of redlining?
Yeah.
Because of redlining. So the government basically made it to where our areas and environments were financially destitute. They stuffed us all in the areas that had the least amount of resources and had the highest density of detrimental environmental factors. That's why like a lot of the areas that have a high population of like minorities, the water quality is worse, the air quality is worse. There's no jobs within those areas because it was planned so.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get out of that. Like people will say like, oh, that was so long ago, but like redlining was maybe in the 60s. That was one generation ago. Yeah. that was our parents' generation. So we're the offspring of all of that. So it's like, okay, now that we see, you almost have a responsibility to do something about it, And that's just the way that I look at it, because going back, so many people did so many things for me to be in the position that I'm in now. So how can I not do what's necessary to help the people that are coming up after me? Or for the people that, sacrificed so I could have what I have now? How can I not give back to them? How can I not necessarily turn my back, but how can I not see what was done and not want to pay it forward? Doesn't make sense to me.
Doesn't make sense at all. Does not make sense at all.
Bro, and that's why I love and I don't know if you want to put this out there, just even the conversation, bro. I have so much respect for what you're doing and what you're building and what you're putting on for your family, bro. Because it's like, it's not just, oh, I'm gonna go do this for me, I'm gonna go do this. It's not even, from hearing you speak, bro, it's not even about you. You're not even doing this.
I guess at the core of it still is, because it's what would make me the happiest, I guess. Like being able to make sure that, there's no more worry. So I guess in some ways it is still sort of selfish. Yeah. Because again, I wouldn't do it if I didn't maybe even see a benefit for it in that, like, for me in it. Because fags definitely, thank you for saying that. But it's just one of those ones where, like you said, like, it's when you realise, like, damn, there's so much growing up, or there's so many things that you had help with that you might even look at as minuscule, that when you realise all those things, it's like you can't feel but want to somehow, in any sort of capacity, just return that favour. Like, I think if you don't want it, that's fine, you can do what you like, but for me it's just just wanting to return that favour at the very least, even at a smaller capacity, just being able to do something for people that have done something for me. And that actually, I'll be honest, stretches as far as just everybody and anybody. Like, it doesn't really matter who it was or in what way I learned something from someone, whether it was perceived as good or bad, or even like certain people that I maybe don't even speak to anymore because of whatever reason. Even those people sort of helped me and pushed me to be in a position that I am now, where I can even think to try and give back to the people that put me on. I wouldn't be able to have that thought if I didn't put myself in a position where I can do that. And again, I have to, like, you almost have to put yourself in a sort of selfish position to be able to actually help others. Like, you can't, like when you're on an aircraft, they always tell you to put on your own mask first, because what do you look like trying to put on other people's masks and then dying?
Are you dying trying to help somebody?
Whereas, like, maybe you put on 5 people's masks and then you died, but if you just put on your own mask and maybe one person died, you now have the ability to put on masks for so many other people.
Yep.
And it's actually interestingly enough something that I was, like, and you spoke about it a little as well, and I'm going to ask you about it, but that mentality of trying to just bring everyone with you, which is even something my business partner said at a very early stage of us working together. Like, you just got to do it for yourself and then do it for others, which was very sound advice, to be honest. You were saying the same thing. Like, would you say getting to where you are now, that you had to put yourself first and in front of people, and even maybe a perceived bad way, to be able to now be in a position where you can actually help?
Yeah, I think that I think it was kind of like a lesson that I had to learn. You know, I think that at first nobody could tell me that, you know, dying to help everybody wasn't the right way to do it. Nobody could tell me otherwise. It's like, oh no, I'm about to be a martyr for this and da-da-da. I don't want to be a fucking martyr no more, you know? And I realized I'm way, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was young, I was new into this shit. I was like, this is the way to do it, and this is the way that I see it, and I'm not listening to anybody.
We dying on this, and someone comes around and tells you, you know, you don't gotta die. We dying on it. You're just so stubborn. You're like, he's saying we don't gotta die, he must be crazy. We dying on it.
It's like, he ain't did nothing. This is over there tripping on my Kanye, over there spazzing like.
But then you realize you didn't have to.
You realize, like, bro, you don't have to, and not only that, like, you're teaching and if you are trying to, like, really be a mentor, a leader, like, you're teaching the people that are looking to you to lead, you're teaching them unhealthy things. You're teaching them to sacrifice themselves, to burn out, to struggle and all that. And it's like, if you
gain what? What do they gain from it? Because that burnout that you've caused yourself, the thing you gain cannot solve that or fix or go back and erase that burnout.
You
or
can't.
that damage. It can't.
You can't.
Like, the damage is done.
And you're way more effective and useful to people when you yourself are healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's sometimes people that I see, especially like within the nonprofit industry and all that, they go and they try to help so many people, and I love their heart and I love their spirit. But you can't help nobody if you don't got it yourself. You know, how can you can't pour from your own cup when your cup is empty? So it's kind of like you have to, there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of time to go and be, you know, not necessarily even selfish, but really just focusing on yourself so you can be more effective for not only you, but for the people that you care about, for the people you love, for the people that you're supposed to lead.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to take a step back and really just put yourself first for a second. There's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking care of you. And I think that that's kind of like the misnomer and misconception of entrepreneurship and even like, fuck it, greatness, so to speak. Like, I'm sure Kobe Bryant like looked out for himself a lot, but his whole fucking team won as a result, didn't it? You know, so it's kind of like things like that. You have to make yourself great. You have to be able to look out for yourself and do what you need to do for you, and then you can go and do for others. But you can't do it the other way around. You know, you can't look out. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's right, because it's like, if there's a group of you, it's like, there's 5 of you, only one person has to make it. Only one.
That's it.
If you're all trying to make it all at once, and you're all trying to help each other make it all at once, it's just a lot of expended, wasted energy. Whereas if those 5 people you just found one, and 4 of you helped that one person get up, it's like at that point, they're now up and they can catapult or help you get up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think that comes down to something else we've spoken about, which is playing your position and knowing what your position is. Find out of the group of people you associate yourself with, or you're around a lot or whatever, who of those people has got the highest chance of making it, and what do they have the highest chance of making it, and pour into that. Why not? Why not put all your eggs in one basket just once, see if it works? Because if it does work, then it's probably going to take a lot less energy than trying to put your eggs and spread all your eggs out, and then trying to lift all these baskets all at once and try and just put all your eggs in one basket. The worst that happens is it falls, you've got a few cracked eggs, get some more eggs. There's an unlimited amount of damn eggs out there. Do you know what I mean? So just try it with the next person, because definitely putting all energy into one thing and then having that thing actually work, and then being able to use that to now passively put energy into other things is way more effective than one thing trying to put energy into all these things, like you said, and that thing doesn't even have enough energy to put into itself, never mind into other things. So again, that's brilliant. So I guess that's something that you had to learn in terms of, again, getting to where you are now, and that's the same principle I'm assuming that you're going to take from getting from where you are now on to getting to the next thing, is rather than trying to pour energy into all of these things at once, you've now already got something that you're pouring energy into, and you're now going to leverage that to pour energy into other things. Perfect.
Bro, and I love what you were saying about like positions and all that. Like as far as like knowing people, like your team's strength and all that too. And then also like just sometimes being not even selfless, but just absent of ego enough to be like, okay, this isn't my time right now.
Nope.
It's okay. I see my boy. I see the homie. They're on right now. They're on the way. Oh well, shit. Let's make sure that they make it.
They make it.
Like it's okay if I'm not at the forefront. It's okay if I'm not the lead and all that. It's okay. And chances are, like once you've like been in the lead, you don't always want to do that shit. Sometimes it's like, please give me a break. No, please, you go do it. Please don't make me have to make all the decisions right now because I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that once you really have kind of like experienced leadership in that capacity, you kind of learn like that leadership can sometimes be exhausting. Like you don't want to have to be responsible for all of the decisions all the time. It's good to have that kind of support.
It's your neck on the line. It's your neck on the stake all the time, 24/7.
All the time.
And you need to be all right with that.
Yeah.
It's your neck on the damn, it's you all of the time.
Yep.
It's your neck every single time. And it's exhausting. It is exhausting. Definitely is exhausting when you're trying to lead.
Bro,
so
and
that's mad.
And also realizing like sometimes like you might not be the tool for this particular job. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like sometimes this thing might require a softer touch.
Yep.
It might require a more aggressive touch. It might require a more creative touch. It might require this kind of thing. You know, not every key opens every lock. So sometimes you got to switch the keys out, and that comes with knowing your team at the same time.
Exactly.
It's like, look, this person, they'll respond better to you in this conversation. So you go do what you're doing over there. I'll trust your judgment. I'll trust your guidance. I'll trust your expertise.
And I'm sure you've had to do that before.
Oh, bro, all the time. All the time. Like, within my teams, like, I'm not the most talented one, so to speak, you know?
Right.
It's like, okay, I know that this person has more experience in curriculum design over here. Hey, you got that. Or this person, they've been better at building kind of like this kind of like programs or these kind of things. Hey, you got it. You know, it's kind of like trusting the expertise of your team.
Yep.
You know, and if you're the lead, you know, counting on them to trust your leadership, but also making sure that you are the competent leader that you need to be to actually earn their trust.
100%. I agree with that.
Bro, just like we were saying earlier, it's like if somebody's just like, trust me, trust.
Yeah,
why?
you can't.
Why?
Yeah. Like, and this is the best part about it. Like, the fact that you need to say trust me shows that you don't even trust yourself. Like, to me, that says you don't and I look at certain things in certain ways where if someone's saying something too much, then that's when you start to almost doubt that they have belief in themselves, because it's like, you shouldn't really have to tell yourself that this much. Like,
you shouldn't.
The same way that you don't need to tell yourself when you wake up, okay, I'm going to brush my teeth. Okay, I'm going to brush my teeth. Yeah, I brush my teeth. If someone started saying to you, yeah, like, you'd just be like,
I'm looking like, you didn't brush your teeth, did you?
You did not brush your teeth. You did not brush your teeth. Like, why do you keep saying that you brush? Bro. So when somebody's like, oh, trust me, or whatever whatever it is that a lot of times people do project, it's like, okay, now I don't because you've said it. Now I've got reason to doubt because you've said it, because I don't need to say certain things to people because it should just be known. Like, that's just the way it is. If you really are like that, there shouldn't really be a reason to have to say it. And again, also in terms of what you were saying and what I was saying in terms of learning like positions and things, it's like, even there was a big situation where, again, like, and I've said that to you, because I am just the way I am in terms of I'm not really going to shy away from saying something, or I'm not in the school of thought of not facing something. So there was a situation where there was a situation going on, somebody was wasting time. I made that very, like I just said, I was like, you're wasting time. You're wasting not just your time, you're wasting everybody's time. This could have been sorted, you just need to communicate. They didn't take it well at all, which is fair enough. Like, okay, I probably could have known that they wouldn't have taken it well, but obviously sometimes when you say things as well, you just say them because that's the way I am. Like, I would just say them. Even if I was to go back, I'd probably still say the same thing, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to sacrifice myself for the sake of
making you comfortable.
Of making someone comfortable if actually they're already uncomfortable. However, in that I learned a lesson of, okay, well, look, in this situation, okay, yeah, I want to say this. Probably shouldn't say this because it's going to have them react in this specific way. And you need to, even in situations like that, realise, right, okay, you're not the person that gets to handle situations like that anymore. When you feel that way, and it's like, yes, you could, like, I can still be the person who just says what he wants, when he wants, as he wants, and everybody knows that I'm that way, but I don't need to always prove it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't always need to prove it, especially if you are that way. You don't need to, like if you are the boss, or if you are like a good fighter, or you go to the gym all the time, it's like, you don't really need to prove that you, who are you proving yourself to? Like, you should already be that and know you are that. So the fact that I felt the need to say something in that situation, I'll be honest, it was probably just because I wanted to, it was probably an ego thing of, I wanted to let people know I am like that, like I will do that. But it's like, yeah, they already knew I would do that probably. So next time, let's not do that, because that would have fucked up money. But at the end of the day, I sort of I guess I had a little bit more confidence to do so because I sort of knew there was no real other option for them.
Yep.
Like, you can agree to disagree with like loads of things, but there was no real other option for them. I knew they'd still sign. I even said it after the fact, after them saying that's it, they don't want to sign or work with us. I was like, they'll still sign and they'll still work, and yeah, lo and behold, we continued working with them. However, yeah, I think that's an important part of always, like, again, pacing yourself and realising, like, before you say something, yes, you can say what you want, when you want, all the time, but what is the outcome of that going to be? And that's something, again, that we had a conversation about in the sauna that helped me a lot. That helped me a lot because it was like, I started sort of taking a little bit of time more before saying something and just being like, right, if I say this is probably going to be the outcome. If I say this is probably going to be the outcome. These are the only two things I can say. What's the best outcome? And just going with that, even if it means that, like, how can I put it? Like, even if it means that you don't get recognition for it.
Yep.
Like, who cares? As long as you're moving forward in the right direction, I think that's what's important.
That's that authenticity piece.
I think that's what's important, moving forward. So, like I was saying, and just to take it back to what we're talking about before we close that section off, is the lessons that you learned of pacing yourself, and obviously you're going to continue doing, you're going to keep on pacing yourself, and you know that those things are universal. Do you think there's ever a point where it's okay not to pace yourself at all?
Damn, I really can't. If I gave him more time, I could maybe think of an example.
So let me put it this way: do you think it's better to just get started on something, or do you think it's better to?
Well,
so
because I
get started and pace and then get started.
No, I think so. I understand your question, but I'm thinking of examples. Me personally, like, I think that pacing is always going to be necessary because it's just kind of like what you were saying with the saying whatever you want, being, doing all of those things. Yeah, you could do that. You can say whatever you want, but you're not free of the consequences from saying whatever you want.
Consequence all the time.
But you have to slow down to really learn and know that there are consequences. I say that with pacing for one thing, but I'm a music head at the same time, like big music head. Do you remember, and I don't know if you remember this time, but there was a time, I want to say around 06 to about 08. You know Lil Wayne?
Yeah.
Lil Wayne was dropping a mixtape like every fucking week.
Really?
Bro. Like just going. And it worked well for him. But then taking it back into the staying in the hip hop vein, you have somebody like Kendrick that's putting out an album every 2 to 3 years. And he's the king of hip hop right now. So it's kind of like I see both strategies kind of like working. But when you definitely go without slowing down or without regards to anything else, you definitely miss things.
Right.
You miss things. It's kind of like even the other example you were talking about with people reading the books and all that.
Yeah.
You can read a book a week and all that stuff. But if I asked you what did you learn, you didn't take any time to recall. You didn't take any time to really digest what you really just did. So you can equate kind of reading that book to living life. If you're just going, and you don't take a second to digest just what happened, before you know it, you've lived a life of just doing things, but you don't know what the fuck happened because
you don't even know what you've done. You've just been doing.
Because you've just been going for like 10, 20 years straight, and you look back and it's like, well, what happened?
What happened?
You don't know because you didn't slow down to actually take it in.
And now when it's time to maybe replicate that somewhere, how are you going to replicate that? Because you don't even know what you did.
Because you weren't even really there for it.
Yeah.
You weren't in the process. You were doing.
Yeah.
You were doing a lot of doing, but you weren't doing a whole lot of like being.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe the point is that doing is the first step, but then you should try and pace as soon as possible. Because you can't really know what you need to do with it before doing it, and you can't really do what you need to do before planning out, I guess. So I guess the first part if you're pacing something, the first aspect of it is first do the thing.
Yeah.
And then you can fill out the rest afterwards, I guess. So yeah, I think
it's kind of
pretty good.
I think it's, and I don't, parable, I might have the word wrong. There's a parable, and it's like about the person that, you know, they have 1 hour to chop the tree down. And they're like, okay, well, if you have 1 hour to chop the tree down, how are you going to spend your time? And their response was like, well, I'm going to spend the first 50 minutes sharpening my axe. Right. And then I'm going to chop down the tree. It's kind of like people that's like, okay, well, you have to make a business. Well, at what point are you going to do the planning? When are you going to like get it right? Because I know a lot of people all the time that are, oh, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to start a company, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Okay, what's your plan? Where's your timeline? What are your goals? What are you going to get done? I don't know, I'm just going to do it. So you're kind of like, it was the example of what you were saying, like, you know, people, yeah, you're running 100 miles per hour, but you ran 100 miles per hour in the wrong direction. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, you got very far, but you got very far in the wrong way. You know? Because you didn't slow down to actually figure out where it is that you're truly going.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And if you don't have a direction of where you're going, then you're going nowhere. Like, you can put in all the effort and everything and energy you want, but you're not going anywhere.
You're not going
anywhere.
You're
literally not going anywhere. And I think that axe example you made is brilliant, because it's like, maybe there's a satisfaction in hitting a tree with a blunt axe and feeling like you're doing something, and it's like, oh, he's not doing any work, look, his tree's still up, I'm making progress. It's like, yes, you want to make progress, but as soon as you make that progress and as soon as you start something, you want to, like how can you make that progress, one, quicker, easier? Because if everything and the only thing you know is just hard work, it's not going to, you're not going to consistently do the hard work. But you can sharpen your knife and sharpen the blade and make sure that as soon as you start swinging, it's going to make the process super easy.
Yep.
Then why wouldn't you do that? It doesn't really make sense not to. What? Because it looks like you've not made progress. It's like, okay, your boss comes and you're both chopping down a tree. It's like, boss, look how much work I've done. You're sweating, dripping with sweat, tired. And he's not even started chopping down his tree, but by the time the shift is done, both trees are now down because he's sharpened his knife. And then the next day, he just does the same thing. But you, who expended all your energy one day, what are you going to do the next day?
Yep.
You're probably not even going to be able to get that tree down the same way you did the day before. And it's like, what's more important? It's 110 times, 100% of the time, it's always more important, I'd say, to at least hit some sort of target every day rather than just going all out. Like, there's days where you can go all out and it's like, okay, you've sharpened your tool and now you can hit through the tree, and rather than now taking one whole shift to do one tree, because you've planned, you can do 3 trees in one shift.
Yep.
And it's like, I think that makes more sense than just being like, nah, just get this tree done, just get this tree done, and all you can do is one tree in one shift. Whereas that guy spent, like you said, all that time, 2 days sharpening a knife, and on day 3 he's chopped down 10 trees. You're only on 3 trees because you're going one tree at a time. But again, you still need to hit the axe on the tree to make some sort of progress. You still need to have the axe, whatever. So I think you need to find a good balance of both, of like, all right, I act now and I plan now, and now when I act, cool, this is what I'm doing. But now I'm planning to act, and I'm making sure you're actually acting on the things you're planning on, because some people definitely get lost in just planning. Planning, and they never act. And then when they do act, it's like it's almost too late. Like, now you've acted, right, cool, you've acted, but there's no more trees for you to chop down anymore because you've just sat there planning the whole time.
Well, analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis. A lot of people, they get it because they're overthinking so much about the strategy they never do. It's like, I'm thinking. So like you said, it's a fine line, and in the same vein of that analogy, you know, the time to sharpen the axe, you know, we can almost equate that to developing a strategy. Now I can pass that axe, or so to speak, that strategy on to somebody else. I've already done the work of sharpening. Now you have to just do.
Makes it easier for you.
Versus the person that never practiced strategy, they never sharpened their axe. So it's like, now you will always be required to chop down that tree. You will always have to be there. You don't. The axe that you pass on is useless because you didn't work on it. You didn't work on the axe.
And now you're expecting someone to do what you're expecting someone to put the same effort into something for you, and they don't even reap the same or even close to the same amount of benefit as you.
Yep.
I think that's ludicrous. I think that's actually insane to expect, and that's something that I go on about a lot, especially recently. It's like I don't like the whole idea of expecting something from someone that you don't expect of yourself. So now you're expecting them to chop down that tree, but it's like you wouldn't chop down.
Yeah,
the
you've
tree.
never chopped down a tree, so how are you gonna tell me to
So
chop
why
down?
are you going to tell them to chop down the tree? You've not chopped down the tree. You've not even like. It's like, okay, maybe you're chopping down trees with them, and then okay, maybe you could justify it a little bit, but then they need to get the exact same amount as you. However, if you make the job easier for them, then it's like, well, the job's one, it's easier for you.
Yep.
Two, I've given you the tools to do the job. So now it's sort of like, I think that's where the balance is created of, you've done it, you've shown them how to do it, you've made it easier for them to do it. So now it makes sense for them to do it for you, but expecting something of someone that you don't expect of yourself, and I think that goes for anything, is insane. And I said that a lot, and then I realised, damn, I still do that in certain things where I was saying to people, you should definitely start creating content, you should definitely start YouTube, you should definitely do this, just do it, just do it, just do it. I've maybe posted a couple Instagram videos and a couple street interviews and all that, and I'm there preaching to the choir about something that I wasn't actually doing. And then I was like, damn, cool, I need to go do it. And I got the camera and I just started.
Let's go.
Straight away. And then as I started, I had a plan. And then mid-plan, I was like, cool, this is a new plan. It's like, yeah, I had a plan. And I stuck to the plan, and it got me to a point where I'm now actually recording content and doing content. And now I've changed the plan to make the plan easier for me to record the content, do the content. And it's all came through planning and also holding myself accountable to something that I was trying to hold other people accountable to, and I think that's a big thing. Like, and there's probably other things that I still do or that I expect of others that I don't do myself, and I'm really like, I think that's part of the reason why I even want to do this section with people, because it will allow me to see and realise and understand sort of how I can improve if I'm expecting others to improve, because again, I can't expect others to improve if I'm not improving. I can't just expect like my team to get better if I'm not getting better.
Yep.
I can't expect my team to be at my level, and it's fine if they're not at my level, but if I can get them to 70 or 80% of my level, they can get bonuses, they can get the whole load, because like it just makes everything so much easier. Whereas if I'm just hell bent on them being at my level and hell bent on holding them to the standard that I hold myself to, can't really do that. So even at that, when I'm saying to people, don't hold people to standards you can't hold yourself to, it's like, I wouldn't even really hold people to standards that you hold yourself to, because maybe they can't reach that standard and maybe that's fine. However, if you're not at that standard at all, you definitely shouldn't be holding people to that standard at all. And I think that's another thing that's important. So like and honestly, I've just realised this is more another session for me to get more insight. So like, you're just watching, right, this is for me, right, this is for me, just so you know, this is for me. So I'm going to ramble for as long as I want.
Talk about it.
Yeah, so for me it's now, that why I'm doing this is again to get more perspectives and just understanding of things, and even down to, like, this is a big tangent, but when you were when you were saying about how you were vegan and things that, and I just was like, oh, what was the reason for it? I wanted to know the reason for it, because I was like, there's a million reasons. The reason that I went vegan isn't going to be the same reason that everybody else is going to be vegan, and also is not the reason that, like for example, back then you were asking me about like sort of what I ate and stuff, and I told you, yeah, I used to be vegan, started eating eggs recently, and I had my reasons for that. And even when I was vegan, I'd say at the beginning, it was like, yeah, I was preaching it to everybody, but I was actually doing it. But then also what I realised was I didn't have to really preach it to everybody. I just do it, and that's fine, just do it. You don't need to preach everything to everybody. And then lo and behold, imagine I had been preaching to everybody to do that, and now I'm no longer doing that. It's like,
well, weren't you just saying?
Exactly. So now I'm like, okay, and I'm glad that I did it that way when I was vegan. Like, I would tell them why I was doing it and what the reasons were. And again, I'm not, like, I don't look at it as something that's good or bad or anything. I just look at it as this is what I was doing then, and it helped me get from here to here.
Yeah.
And I was telling people about it, and what I always said to people was like, but don't do it. Don't do it just because I'm saying it. Don't do it. If you want to do it,
Because
fine,
it's not
do
going to
it.
last.
Exactly, but it's up to yourself. Like I think leaving people for the option is always the best bet. Because if you start trying to hold people to something and saying, "Oh, why are you doing that?" or you shouldn't be doing that and all that, which you still like naturally, everybody naturally does that. But if you constantly do that, like people aren't going to look at you and think, "Yeah, I want to do what he's doing," because they just look at you like an asshole. Do you know what I mean? Like he keeps telling me what to do, and nobody really wants to be told what to do. Do you know what I mean? So you're better off just doing your thing, getting on with it, and keeping it kicking.
Well, that's how resentment happens.
Yeah,
You know?
100%.
Like if you try to like force a lifestyle or force a change on somebody, it's like they didn't do it because they wanted to. They did it because you made them.
You made them.
So it's never. So why would they continue that thing? Because the second you're not looking anymore, they're gonna go back to doing exactly what the fuck it is they wanted to do.
Yep.
Because they didn't want to do it in the first place.
They didn't want to do it in the first place. And I think that's where, again, there's, look, even just that conversation there, it's probably something that I still do on certain occasions where I'm just like, well, up until we had that conversation in the sauna, it was like, I'm just going to make this person do it. And then I realised, shit, when anybody was trying to make me do something, I would 9 times out of 10 do the opposite. So why am I going to try and make, like, I'll just suggest it to them, and then I'll let them come to their own summation. And if it's like, okay, they've came up with their own idea, this idea still pushes us forward, cool, let's just go with that. And then maybe eventually they'll come round to your idea.
Yep.
But trying to force people or make people understand something or make people a certain way, I think you're right in saying it creates resentment, and it also creates a resentment that they don't realise. So they will say, oh, there's no resentment, there's no spite, there's no this, but there actually is, and I'll admit that I've got spite, like I've had spite or resentment towards people without realising that I had it, and then when I realised, I was, oh shit, that's the reason why, like, okay, I understand it now. But people will have that subconscious resentment, and then you'll just keep trying to force them, and they'll just keep on resenting you, and I think it's not a great cycle. So what I had to learn from you was just let people be.
Just let them do what they do.
And if they come round, they come round. If they don't, well, at least you tried. If they come round 10 years later, well done. You're moving forward anyway. Like, you can't stand and wait and hold back on sort of yourself just for the sake of others, which again, I guess it takes on to the next question. What did you have to lose to get to where you are now, in terms of, like, I've already asked something similar, but what, like, in terms of even, would you say you had to lose people, perspectives, things that you maybe thought you couldn't live without? What were things you had to lose, and what are things you know you probably will have to lose that you maybe don't want to lose, but you know you're probably going to have to lose them? And are you just going to lose them, or are you going to try and hold on to them and figure out a way to not lose them?
I think that damn, that's a big one, dog. That's a big one, because the part that's tricky in that is what did I have to lose?
Yeah.
Because I think that some of the things that I lost, I didn't necessarily have to, but I lost those things and really gave those things up because I thought that's what was necessary at that time, you know? But one thing that I will say that you do kind of like have to lose, you know, the cost of your new life is your old life, you know? The cost of what you have now is gonna be what you had before, you get me? So it's kind of like if you're really trying to get over to that next level, you can't have that same life that you used to have. And sometimes that means you can't have the same people that you used to have there. Because the reality of it is, like, you are the culmination of, what is it, I think like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it's kind of like, yeah, when I was like 20, that was cool, but like, I can no longer be the combination of those same 5 people that I was spending time with when I was in my 20s. Because it's like, you know, I was a different person, and I was on different things back then. I cared about different things back then. And, you know, the reality of it is too, like, everybody can't come. You know, in order for you to kind of like grow and evolve and all that, sometimes the old self has to die. you know?
I
So
think you've died a lot of times then.
many a times.
Many a times.
Many a times. It's kind of like, you know, something that they talk about in Vipassana is the analogy of like a river, you know? If I walk through a river at 5 p.m., by the time I walk through that river again at 5:01 p.m., it's a different river. Whew. It's the same thing with the person. You know, even from this conversation that we've had now, I'm going to be a different person now because I've learned. So once you've learned, you cannot unlearn. You have to be different. Whether you admit it or not, you are different. So it's best.
And if you don't become like, and if you try and stay the way you were doing new things, you're almost like, you almost expose yourself and are forced to become different, right?
You force it, and you force it. You try to force it, but the being yourself like knows. You know, it's kind of like when you're in certain environments that you used to enjoy. It's like, damn, why don't I like this anymore? Why am I no longer enjoying myself in the same way? It's like, because you're no longer the person that used to enjoy this thing. It's kind of like we talked about, you know, we talked a little bit about like drinking and all that stuff. Like I used to drink and all that a lot more. But it's kind of like, I don't enjoy that shit anymore. Like my body rejects it. The lifestyle that I have now rejects those actions. It does not align anymore. So I say that to say the things that I had to give up were old habits, you know, things that I used to enjoy, people that I used to enjoy. You know, it's still all love, you know, it's no ill will, but it's like we're no longer going in the same direction, so we can no longer have the same relationship.
Yeah.
Because my time looks different now, whereas yours may look the same. And that time that looks the same for you does not propel me to where I need to be with this life that I've chosen now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like...
It's like, I guess you can look at it as one, like a motorway is going to the left and they're still going this way, like straight, and you're maybe going off this way. It's like, yeah, you can still see each other from the distance, and these are like your goes there, and then maybe you can still wave at each other. Yeah. And still, maybe even like there's like other little lanes that you can come and meet each other again, and then go back your own separate ways. And I think that's fine, but yeah, I think even when you try, like like you said, when you're in the same environments that you used to be in, you just feel uncomfortable. Like I think with me as well, there's been times where I've been sad doing something that before I used to enjoy doing, and I was just like, what is this what I used to do? Like, like I was like, fair enough that I used to get enjoyment out of it, but damn, this is actually quite boring now. And I think that's fine, to be fair, and I think...
It's okay.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
It's okay. I think that sometimes, you know, we feel guilty sometimes about growing, about evolving. We feel guilty because it's like, well, damn, like...
You switched up.
It's like I didn't, because bro, when I first like went off to college, you know, I had a lot of my friends say like, oh yeah, you abandoned us. It's like, I didn't abandon you, I just pursued what was meant for me. Like you could have came. You could have came along, but you didn't want that for you. You know, before I used to kind of get, you know, quote unquote survivor's guilt about that. Like of like, fuck, I made it and they didn't. But at the same time, it's like, we were in the same position. You could have made the same choice that I made.
But you didn't.
But you didn't. So it's kind of like, I can't slow down and stop myself for what I'm destined for to wait for you to kind of catch up. To wait for the possibility that you may catch up, because you may never catch up.
Yeah.
And I can't stop my life waiting for something that may never happen.
Yeah, that would suck.
Bro.
Imagine sitting on a highway, and you're waiting for that car, but that car might not come. Like you're just waiting.
Just waiting.
For no reason, you're just waiting. That would suck.
And it's kind of like you can't do that because like it's only, you're sacrificing the person that you could and should be. You're sacrificing your best and most authentic self because you're trying to appease and wait for somebody else under the guise of loyalty.
Yeah.
Under the guise of like, you know, in some cases an unhealthy code that we've tried to build among like, oh no, it's loyalty, I'm dedicated, I'll never leave this person. Well, I didn't leave you. You just didn't come. I told you this is where I was going. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like you're going on a trip, right? And it's like, all right, we're leaving at 5 p.m. We're leaving at 5 p.m.
Yep.
It's 5:06, and you're not in the car, that's not on me.
Yep. You
decided to not get dressed, you decided to not come out the house, you decided to not pack. I didn't leave you. You stayed, and I did
told
what the
you
fuck.
where I was going. I told you when we were going. You're not in the car. The car moved. Now you're talking about you could have waited 5 minutes. Well, maybe I could have, but
why
you
should
could
I
have been
have
on time.
You
could have been on time.
You could have been on time, but you didn't. And like, you know, like, if that's not the life that you wanted, you know, no shade, it's all love. You know, you did what you wanted to do. But just respect that I'm doing what I need to do.
Yep, because people will always say as well, like, they want things or they want, and actually I'm going to use my business partner as an example. He says that he wants like to hit a certain amount per month. He wants to hit this, like, once you hit this, like this is just, he just has a number and a goal that he wants to hit, which is like, alright, fair enough. But do you want to hit that? And if, like, and I'm going to ask him the question as well, because it's like, do you actually want to hit that number? Because just so you know, if you want to hit this number, this, and all these other things that make you comfortable just now, start waving bye-bye to them.
You gotta let it go.
Start waving bye-bye. You don't want to listen to me? Then stay there.
That's okay.
That's fine. But at the end of the day, for us to get to here, you need to start listening about these things. And yes, I need to listen to you also, however, you really need to listen to me about this.
Yep.
And we really need to be doing these things, whether you like it or not, because at the end of the day, you said this is what you wanted.
Yep.
That's what we're building towards. It's just what it takes.
Yep.
And if you're not ready for that, then you don't actually want that. You want the idea of it. You like the idea of it, but you don't actually want it. Same way people always say, I want to learn a new language. It's like, yeah, you like the idea of learning a new language.
You like the idea of it.
Exactly, you like the idea of it. You don't actually want it, because if you wanted to, you would do it.
Yep.
Same way people say, oh, I want to be able to know how to fight. It's like, you would go and learn how to fight if you wanted to know how to fight. If you wanted to go to the gym, you would go and do those things, but it's just the idea of it, the fantasy of it.
Yeah,
is what you like. And it's like, okay, fair enough, but admit that to yourself. And I think that I was going to say earlier was when you were saying about authenticity and then saying that code that people hold themselves to, I think that people that are authentic will hold themselves to that code. But now the question is, if you had a code and you're someone that just stands by your word and your word was you guys do everything together, that person didn't follow you and move on, it's like, of course it's easy for them to see that you are someone who basically betrayed them, because you did. You betrayed that word that you had with them. However, at the same time, are you going to be authentic enough to say, yes, we had that word. Yes, you could say that I broke that word. However, at the same time, I made it very clear that this was our word and this is where I was going and this is what we were going to benefit from going this way.
Yep.
You didn't want to come with, and that's that. Yes, I may have broken the code, however, the code wouldn't have been broken if you came along with.
Yep.
So it's like, again, there's a part of accountability that another person has to hold and realise that, like, I'd say you should realise that, yeah, you did break the code technically, because if you didn't want to break the code, you should have stayed. However, if they didn't want to break the code, they should have went. So at that point, both of you broke the code, because you both didn't hold to your word of we're going places together. You let them go off and you left them behind. So actually, in that situation, these are both as guilty as each other, which I think is then fair.
Sometimes shit happens.
That is actually fucking fair.
Sometimes shit happens. And in that same vein though too, man, like, I forget, one of my homegirls, she taught me this. It's like, a lot of things in life, they just happen. They don't have meaning until we give them meaning.
Until you give them meaning.
Sometimes shit just happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not like, oh, you broke this, you did that. It's like, we just ended up in different places, and that's okay. You know, I think that sometimes we need to let people be free to make their own decisions, and then also allow ourselves that same permission to just be us and to do what we need to do without like feeling guilty or feeling like we're responsible to this or accountable to that. Sometimes shit just happens. It's not good or bad. Like, the only times, well, not the only times, but oftentimes things are only good or bad because we color it with our own perspective. It could just be a thing that happened.
Yep. And I think the best example of that is one that, like, even gravity or electricity or whatever.
Yeah.
Gravity is just gravity.
Gravity is just gravity.
It's just that.
Gravity is just gravity.
You decided you were going to jump off that building.
You can be like, gravity murdered me. It's like
no, gravity didn't do nothing. You jumped off that building thinking gravity was going to chill out and stop for a second and let you just defy what it just does. It just does what it does. And what happened is what happened. You jumped off to that building and now you're gone. It's like same way that when you were saying in terms of, sorry, what you just said. I don't know why I've just been distracted. Anyway.
No, don't know why.
So, relax. Relax. Relax yourself. Anyway. Where are we?
Keep that in there. Keep that in there.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, I ain't got the time to be edited, so you're all good. It's all staying in there. Even the captions are going to be all off because I'm just doing the AI generated whatever.
Bro, did we talk about Opus? Dog, run this through Opus. Opus AI. What it is, it's an AI software. You take long form videos and then it breaks it down into like 100 little videos.
Oh, okay.
And it kind of like, it puts the captions on there. If you want, it'll put AI B-roll in there, and it'll kind of like rate each one like based on the likelihood of it going viral.
All right, okay. I'll test that. I've said it, so I will test that.
Check it out.
Opus, you said.
Opus.ai. But my bad. I threw off our flow.
Yeah, the point we were on, like gravity. What was the point?
That's what it is, man. I don't even know where we was at.
What was even the point?
We were talking about code. We were talking about gravity. Talking about people just doing what they want. What did we have to sacrifice? What did we have to give up?
Anyway,
there was a lot.
At the end of the day, gravity's just doing what gravity's doing. You decided to do your own thing. There's consequences for that. Face the damn consequences. That is what it is at the end of the day. So
shit just happens.
Shit does just happen. And now, a more question deepen in terms of just your veganism aspect. Like you told me, the reason was obviously the engineering you were doing, environmental engineering. You realised what impact it was having on the environment. Would you say that going vegan had an impact on you?
For sure.
What impact would you say it had?
For sure. It had an impact in a lot of different ways. In a lot of different ways. So I guess going back to it, so the reasons I became vegan, once again, I learned the environmental impact and all that other stuff. And then also like I've always been an animal lover since I was a kid, you know? Okay. So it's kind of like also the treatment of the animals and all those other kinds of things. But then once I became vegan, I started studying veganism even more. So I was like, oh fuck. So some of the emotions and some of the kind of like anxiety and all that negative stuff that happens like when you kill an animal, you're digesting that energy. You're digesting those stress chemicals and all that. And bruh, have you seen the little two things? Like it just started grossing me out because there's so many things into it. Like for one, I didn't realize that all like milk and dairy products have a little bit of pus in it. It's never 0% pus.
That's why they radiate it, like pasteurize it.
Oh my god! But it's even still like there's still some between.
It's not fun.
Between that, bro, and then I seen this other video with like, and plus I was a butcher for a little bit, so I got to see how this shit was kind of like made. Between that, the pus that'll be in the meat, you know, sometimes old meat will be ground up and then put with new meat, and then we'll sell that as ground beef. Like, and then also after that, like just kind of like living the lifestyle, my body feels so much better. Yeah. The only time I've gotten sick in like, I think it's been the 8 years since I've been vegan, are the 2 times that I caught COVID. Outside of that, I have not been sick. Not a cold, not a flu, not a sniffle, not a nothing.
That's good.
So it's kind of like your body has changed at the same time, and then also at the same time, it's made me more discerning about what I put in my body. You know, I'm not just eating bullshit and all that. You know, you hear about people that come here and then they get like Bali belly and all that. Can't relate. Never, you know what I'm saying? Can't relate. Never had it, never had any of that. You know, I'm not knocking anybody that, you know, eats whatever they want, but what I'm saying is kind of like what we talked about. Once I learn and once I know, you know, I cannot unlearn.
Yeah, as soon as you have the information, it's about applying that information, and I agree with you in that aspect. Funnily enough, obviously I was vegan and started eating eggs, but again there was a reason for that. Like I've not just done it just wishy-washy, like I've not ate eggs and since before COVID started or something, and then just started eating it again, for my own reasons. And again, I'll actually go into that a little bit in terms of with, for me anyway, with being vegan, I know that it's something that it's something that takes a lot of, like everything does, takes a lot of understanding, research and time and commitment into it, especially if you want to do it right, like really, really right.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, right now I'm not doing it correctly. What is there that I can do correctly, which is a lot easier for me to do while I'm doing, essentially running my business and going to the gym and all those things too, at this moment in time, and what works for me. So I really cut down on everything, and I'm glad that I did. And yeah, my main thing that I do is eggs. Obviously, I still eat veg and things, here and there, obviously on the side of my food, but I keep it as minimal as possible. And keeping it minimal for me is worked wonders. I'm sure I could do the exact same with being vegan. However, I know that it would take maybe more effort and time, and I would say that that's just an aspect of laziness for me, which I'm sort of fine with, because again, I feel great. I feel phenomenal right now. I feel better than I have before. I'd say the best that I did feel, and the biggest time that I felt like a big change was when I first went vegan, because I was cooking all my stuff from ground up and everything.
Yeah.
So I knew what was going in, I knew what I was eating, and it was phenomenal, I'll be honest. But again, I'm just not in a position where I could say I do have the time. I would need to make time, but realistically, I'd rather use that time for something else if I have a current fix for that. However, now, with you going, like, let's say vegan, and with you being vegan, do you think that's something that you, because obviously part of the reason is obviously like I've seen the videos too, all the parasites, all the germs, it's like, we don't need to go into it, but do you think that, for example, if you were, would you ever eat meat again if you knew where exactly it came from, how it was raised, where it came from, how it was raised, that it was clean, or maybe even something that you raised and produced yourself? Is that something that you would indulge in ever again?
I would consider it, but it would.
It would need to be very specific.
It would need to be like, because I've thought about it and I've considered it before. So two things within it. So back home, I had this place I used to go to, and they had sushi burritos. Have you ever had a sushi burrito? Dog, good as hell. It's pretty much a big ass sushi roll, but you eat it like a burrito, and it has like tempura shrimp and edamame and cabbages and shrimp and different fishes and all that. Bomb as hell. So when I was first going vegan, like I went kind of like steps and all that.
Yeah.
And then that was like the last thing that I ate. I used to love that place. And then I went and I had it again, and I was like, after like maybe a few months of not eating any meat, fish included, then I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. This does not taste good.
The smell as well.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, I want to say like I would, if I would like caught the fish myself, or if I like, did what I needed to do, but at the same time,
I don't know if you could.
I might be disgusted by it at the same time. So it's like,
yeah, because obviously I only eat eggs, and I'll be honest, like I never even really craved it or anything. And part of the reason that it is eggs is, like in the UK, there's this guy called Eddie Abu, and he was banging on about eggs and like loads. So I'd say that definitely part of the reason, like part of the thing that influenced me. And I also know that before I came to Bali, there was like a certain goal I was trying to reach. And I was just thinking back to what I was doing back then, and obviously I realised that I was eating a lot of eggs back then as well, like not consciously, but that's just what I was doing. And my body agreed with it, fine, I would just do it. What I was going to say was, for me, I reckon the times that I would eat meat again, because just now I think I'm in the same boat of, like, yeah, I could say that I would eat it, but I think I would get there and I'd just be like,
I can't fucking do it.
However, if I was to be in like Japan or just another country where I'm experiencing culture, and their culture is maybe a certain type of beef or whatever the meat is, like obviously within a, like I've never ate pork and I don't plan on eating pork, so pork would be out of
Oh, you never had pork?
Nah, I never had pork.
Oh,
And I
damn.
wouldn't
No
plan
ribs,
on.
no nothing? No honey baked ham?
Nothing.
Damn.
I wouldn't plan on. So, however, in terms of like beef and all the other meats that I had before, like if I was somewhere where in the culture that's like they'd eaten that, and that was like we were maybe even around a fire and they're telling us a story and there was that meat, like I would probably indulge in it just to be part of that culture.
Yeah.
But again, it would just, I think it'd be very rare occasions, or if I knew the meat was like high quality, just to see what effect it had on me.
Yeah.
And I know that it's not like just some random corner shop or like some supermarket conglomerate where they're just like photocopying the chickens, you know what I mean? Like coming out a damn 3D printer. Where I know like the meat is actually of high quality. So that's where I'd say if I was to eat again, it would be occasions like that. Definitely occasions like that.
Like a rare occasion, you know?
Yeah,
What
sure.
question, what made you go vegan?
What made me go? So yeah, it was, I'd say just studying. I was just, so initially, just this was pre-COVID as well, interestingly enough. I started reading up about religion and things like that. Went down a big rabbit hole there, just researching a lot about that, and then those same people that were teaching about religion at the time were also teaching about obviously health and foods, and then I started looking into that from that. And it was just a sort of spiral, just kept on going because those same people were also recommending other people who I then went on to watch, and those people were also doing things in regards to business and how to make money online and all, and that's just one thing to the next, one thing to the next, one thing to the next. So yeah, that's how I sort of became just from religion, learning more about things and then learning about food, and then like you said, once you get certain info, it's like, are you just going to ignore it or are you going to act on it? And then I obviously acted on it and just sort of made my, thank you very much, and sort of made my decisions based off of that. No, on you go. Thanks so much.
Thank you. No, you're all good. I appreciate you.
And then sort of made my decision based off of that, and just, and when I did it, again, I did it cold turkey, just straight away.
Oh, you just went straight?
Yeah, I just went straight. Damn. And then I was just, cooking my own food, and that's thankfully due to my mother. She just always cooked everything, so that's sort of where I took that from. I was like, I just cook everything myself. Like I never went and bought all these like ready-made vegan things or all this like fake vegan burgers. I was just making my own food. So, and again, even when I was eating meat, I wouldn't say it was as bad as maybe others who were eating meat, because again, my mum cooked everything from scratch, and it was a lot of high quality meat. I'd say she would go to the butchers and stuff. It wasn't your things from like your Walmart or like those sort of stores. It was like from a butcher's. It was higher quality things, and I'd never ate it a lot even when I was younger. Like I never really liked it a lot. Like I would never eat a lot of it unless it was like certain meats, and then I would eat it. But I would always just call everything chicken as well, whether it was beef, whatever it was on my plate, it was just chicken. And I wasn't a big fan of it anyway. Like I'd eat it here and there. I'd like it sometimes, I wouldn't be a fan of it others. Like I would never be that, I need meat. Like I've never been that sort of person. I need meat. And when I became vegan, it's like, where'd you get your protein from? It's like,
right, everybody always asks.
Everybody
always
You can say what you want about vegan, but I was boxing while vegan and I was whipping ass. So you can come say what you like, I will whip yours too. And I will not eat no meat while doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the be all and end all. Like, and again, that's down to people's limitations that they set themselves of, oh, I need this to do this. It's like, no, you don't. You don't need that to do that. But before we go on another tangent, I'm on 17%. It's 93 minutes in. I think I'm going to sort of wrap it up. We'll probably end up talking more anyway, but I'll wrap it up with just asking you, look, what would you say is, we'll start off by, what would you say is like not the biggest lesson you learned, but a lesson that you learned that you think is timeless? What is a lesson that you learned that you had to learn? Maybe you didn't want to, maybe a very difficult lesson. And then also, would you say you have a purpose, and do you think that purpose is singular, or do you think you have multiple purposes?
Multiple compasses?
Purposes.
Purposes? Oof.
So yeah, the first one being, what's a lesson that you'd say is timeless?
Always be honest with yourself.
Always be honest with yourself.
I know that sounds super corny and cliche, but always be honest with yourself, like why you're doing something or why you didn't do something, or the fact if you are doing something or if you're not doing something. You know, because it's kind of like, oh, well, I did this because, you know, it was this or I had to. It's like, no, it wasn't because you had to. It was because you wanted to or because that was the easiest thing for you to do in the moment. Be honest with yourself. It's okay. You got to be able to like see yourself and actually to like truly be your true self.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's I agree with that. I think that's the most important thing. If you're not yourself, then who are you?
Then who are you?
Who are you? If you're not truthful to yourself, who are you truthful to?
You know? And not and make sure that there's not a distance between the person that you believe yourself to be and the person that you actually are. But that can only happen if you're honest.
Yeah,
you know, because a lot of people say, I'm a good person. Well, your actions are saying otherwise.
Yep.
Or if you're constantly telling yourself telling yourself you're a bad person, it's like, well, why are you saying this about yourself? You know, why do you think you're a bad person? Or it's like, oh, I'm going hard. Like so many people, bro. Jumping back into the entrepreneurship thing. It's like, oh, I'm working on this. When is the last time you did any work towards this business or towards this thing that you say you're working towards? The easiest example I always give is people's like, oh, I'm trying to lose weight. When's the last time you went to the gym?
You can't try it. You're either losing weight or you ain't.
You know what I'm saying?
Shut it. You're either losing weight or you're not losing weight. You're not trying. You're either losing or you're not.
You're either doing it or you're not, and you gotta be honest with yourself about that shit. Or honest with yourself, do you actually want this thing or do you not want it? It's okay.
What's it gonna take?
But if you don't want it, please don't waste my time telling me that this is what you're doing. Because at this point, you're going out of your way to waste your time, and now you've looped me in, and now I'm wasting my time. You know, just be honest.
So yeah, be honest is the first one. Now the second question was, what's the biggest lesson that you would say you had to learn that you didn't necessarily want to learn and was a very tough lesson?
Be honest with myself. I would say it's almost the same thing.
Same thing.
Like it's sometimes, you know, especially like within the realm of business and then within the people that I like care about, I can be a bit of an asshole.
Yeah.
Like I'm not. If you want the message delivered to you softly, I'm not the guy.
Not that guy, bro.
I'm not. I'm not the guy.
Not me.
Especially like if I love and I care about you, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to do things to make you feel good. I'm going to tell you things to make you be good.
Be good.
You know? Because a lot of times people is like, it's so hard and yes, it's hard and it's going to stay hard, but you still got to do the shit anyways.
You know what's funny though? You know? And people that are like, oh, you need to be soft and when it's time to go hard, they're phoning you. Yeah. Please go tell this person this and that. Nah. They're calling you.
Exactly.
They know that you're going to be the person to do that. Mm-hmm. However, when they don't want to hear it, so they just don't want to hear it. So, it shouldn't be like this and shouldn't be like that. Well, I'm just going to be the way I am. Simple as like.
Yep.
And we've obviously discussed like, okay, there's times where you shouldn't, etc. So know when to, but yeah, just be yourself, right? And then the third one is, would you say you have a purpose, and would you say that the purpose is just singular?
Two things. I want to say one more thing on that last thing.
Go on.
Well, just one analogy, real quick. It's not even an analogy. I forget. I don't know what you would call it, but it's Have you heard of this phrase? And it's hard times create easy men, easy times create soft men, soft men create hard times create hard men. Yeah. It's that whole kind of cycle. The hard man, the hard person needs to exist for those easy times to exist, for those benefits, those luxuries that we all kind of enjoy. That difficult person, that asshole, has to exist. I'm fine with being that asshole.
Yeah. Someone's got to be that.
Someone's got.
If you don't want to be him, I'll be him. I'm happy. You know, I enjoy being an asshole.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it, and I'm honest with myself that is the person that I am. You know what I'm saying?
I enjoy being it because at the end of the day, it's like, you're an asshole, but at the end of the day, yeah, they were an asshole, but they were right.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said that to you even as well about certain people saying things to me like, you're going to learn. Like, shit, I learned and I found out, and I went back and I said, you were right. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, so shit, I'll be that guy.
Bro, and you have to like accept those people too. I remember being at the gym. I was working on my jab and all that, working on my jab, getting my jab wrong, and they're like, no, you got to step with it. No, step with it. No, put your weight in it. No, do this, do that. And they're like, because I do my little breathing thing when I put it, so like And they was like, no, shut all that shit up if you're not gonna do it right. And I was like, damn, you right. You right.
Yeah,
you can't really say nothing because it's like they might have been perceived as being an asshole or whatever. It might have come across as like harsh, but I'd rather somebody be that to me rather than kind of like
sugarcoat it and then throw you in a ring and your job is all
I'm getting my
whack.
ass kicked, you know? Like, it's just tell me what I need to know and tell me directly. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But damn, the third question. Remind me one more time, bro.
So, would you say you have a purpose, and do you think that the purposes are singular?
No, I don't think I do. I think that I think my purpose is whatever I decided to be in that moment.
Brilliant.
You know, I think that, and I think that's also kind of my relationship with like spirituality and God a little bit too at the same time. You know,
we may need to have another conversation if you're going to bring that up. Go. Let's just
because people are like,
off,
oh yeah, well, God has a purpose, and it's like, no, God put you here and gave you free will to decide what it is that you need to do.
So I think what you said is perfect, because one thing that I would say is like people are always chasing a purpose, even myself. Like I said, I gave you the purpose that I have.
Yeah.
However, once people reach the purpose, it's like they don't know what to do with themselves anymore. And I know that once I reach one purpose, I know that there's going to be another one that's going to open up to me, or another purpose that I'm going to find. And I can't wait for that. That's why I want to reach that purpose and fulfill it, so that I can reach the next purpose and the next purpose and the next purpose. And that's why I was asking, do you think it's singular? Because I think a lot of people get lost in thinking they just have a purpose and that's it.
Yep.
And now once you reach that purpose, because you just think you have a purpose and that's the meaning of life, or that's the meaning of whatever, then you just end up, what's next? Like,
what's next?
Like same with my business partner, you want to hit that number, cool, we hit that number, now what?
Yep.
We hit the number, cool, let's just go to sleep now. Like, no, it's not the way it's going to work. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, bro,
I'm glad you said that.
I know exactly what so it's kind of like I don't have a purpose per se, I have a direction.
Yeah.
You know, the direction is infinite. The purpose is finite. The purpose is defined. It's like I know my direction, like, and I developed that with a couple of different things, like how companies have different, different kind of like pillars and values. You know, I have my pillars and I have my values. You know, my values: honesty, intentionality, courage, and kindness.
Honesty?
Intentionality, courage, and kindness.
As
long as I'm going in those directions in any aspect of my life, I'm going in the right direction. And if my goal, you know, what I'm overall trying to do is really just improve the quality of life for my people, that never ends. I'm never done. I'm never hitting a plateau, because a plateau does not exist.
Doesn't exist.
I can execute and live on those pillars and in those directions for the eternity of my life and never fulfill it completely. So I'm never like, oh well, shit, I accomplished this goal, now who am I? What do I do? What do I do with myself? I'm never done, you know? And it's kind of like, I think that some people, they have issues with finding a place where they're kind of like content. My goal isn't to be rich, my goal isn't to be this, my goal is to be content. Where some people are like, oh yeah, well I want to be happy. Happiness is overrated. You're not always going to be happy, you're not always going to be sad, you're not always going to be this, you're not always going to be that. You know, it's about accepting where you are in the moment and then moving in that direction that's most true to you. That's it. We don't got to overcomplicate the shit, you know? But people's like, oh my God, dude, what's happy? You're not always gonna, especially when you're living, I feel like, a purpose-filled life, some shit is going to suck.
Yeah, because it's like, I enjoy running. Like, I'm sure you do enjoy running, but do you enjoy what it takes to be a runner or a boxer? Do you want to do ice baths every day? Like, probably not, but that's part of the game, so you better get a move on, do you know what I mean?
Like that fucking drill where they're like punching you in the abs, I do not enjoy it. I do not enjoy that. But I enjoy being able to take a punch a little bit better now, but as far as like what it takes to get there, no, I don't always like that shit. No.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. I love that.
But it's a part of the journey. It's a part of the direction, you know?
Yeah, like I said, we're probably going to have to do another video anyway, hopefully, possibly, maybe, who knows. I'm sure we will. But that's been, I guess, the first edition of People's Perspective. I just need to cut it short. I'm on like 7%. We've been going for 103 minutes.
Oh, we've been talking.
However, yeah, People's Perspective, first edition, episode 1. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me another perspective. Again, you gave me loads of perspectives in there, loads of gems. And like I said, this is more for me than anyone else. However, I'm going to put this out for people to see. And I think there's going to maybe even be people, well, in fact, there will be people that I know you'll be able to connect with, that I think you should connect with as well. I will put you in contact with somehow, some way or another. However, yeah, it's been a very good conversation, and many more of these to come. So thanks for having it.
Hey, appreciate you, bro.
Bye bye.